This question examines the assumptions underlying the economic order quantity (EOQ) model, a widely used inventory management technique that identifies the optimal order quantity, minimizing the sum of ordering costs and inventory carrying costs. The standard EOQ model assumes annual demand or sales volume is known and constant. Fixed ordering costs are incurred each time an order is placed. Carrying, holding, costs are incurred for maintaining inventory. Purchase price per unit remains constant, meaning quantity discounts are ignored. Because the basic EOQ model assumes a constant purchase price regardless of order size, quantity discounts are not explicitly included in the standard calculation. If suppliers offer quantity discounts, a modified EOQ analysis must be performed that compares inventory costs with purchasing cost savings. Therefore, the question asks which factor is not explicitly considered in the standard EOQ calculation. A. Level of sales. Incorrect. The annual demand or sales level is a key input in the EOQ model because it determines how much inventory is required over the year. B. Fixed ordering costs. Incorrect. Ordering costs are one of the two major cost components balanced by the EOQ model. Higher ordering costs generally increase the optimal order quantity. C. Carrying costs. Incorrect. Holding or carrying costs are also a fundamental component of the EOQ calculation. Higher carrying costs reduce the optimal order quantity. D. Quantity discounts. Correct. The standard EOQ model assumes a constant unit purchase price and therefore does not explicitly incorporate quantity discounts. When discounts exist, additional analysis beyond the basic EOQ model is required. Correct answer. D. Quantity discounts. Exam tip. The basic EOQ model balances only ordering costs and carrying costs while assuming constant demand and constant unit price. Quantity discounts are excluded from the standard model and require a separate analysis to determine whether the savings from lower purchase prices outweigh the additional inventory carrying costs. This question tests understanding of the economic order quantity (EOQ) model, a classic inventory management tool used to determine the optimal order size that minimizes total inventory costs. The EOQ model balances two competing costs: ordering costs, which decrease as order size increases because fewer orders are placed; carrying, holding costs, which increase as order size increases because more inventory is stored. The objective of EOQ is not to minimize each cost individually. Instead, it minimizes the sum of ordering and carrying costs. The model also relies on several simplifying assumptions, including constant demand, constant unit cost, no stockouts, and a known, constant lead time, delivery time. The question asks which statement correctly describes the EOQ model. The EOQ results in the minimum ordering cost and minimum carrying cost. Incorrect. EOQ does not minimize each cost separately. A very large order minimizes ordering costs but increases carrying costs, while a very small order does the opposite. EOQ minimizes the total combined cost. B. Increasing the EOQ is the best way to avoid stockouts. Incorrect. Stockouts are typically prevented by reorder points and safety stock, not by simply increasing the EOQ. C. The EOQ model assumes constantly increasing usage over the year. Incorrect. The EOQ model assumes constant and predictable demand, not increasing demand over time. D. The EOQ model assumes that order delivery times are consistent. Correct. A standard assumption of the EOQ model is that lead time is known and constant, allowing inventory to be replenished at predictable intervals. Correct answer. D. The EOQ model assumes that order delivery times are consistent. Exam tip. Remember the key assumptions of the basic EOQ model: constant demand, constant lead time, constant unit price, no stockouts, and fixed ordering costs. EOQ minimizes total inventory cost, ordering cost plus carrying cost, not each cost individually. Safety stock and reorder points, rather than EOQ itself, are used to protect against stockouts caused by demand or delivery uncertainty. This question tests understanding of the economic order quantity (EOQ) model and how changes in inventory-related variables affect the optimal order size. The EOQ model seeks to minimize the total annual inventory cost by balancing ordering costs and carrying, holding costs. The general relationships are important. Higher annual demand, sales, leads to a higher EOQ because more inventory is needed. Higher ordering costs encourage larger orders, increasing the EOQ. Higher carrying costs make holding inventory more expensive, reducing the EOQ. Safety stock is additional inventory held to prevent stockouts and affects the reorder point, not the EOQ. The question asks which variable, if it decreases, would increase the EOQ. Students should identify the variable that has an inverse relationship with EOQ. A. Annual sales. Incorrect. A decrease in annual sales reduces inventory requirements, so the EOQ would decrease rather than increase. B. Cost per order. Incorrect. Lower ordering costs make it less expensive to place frequent orders, causing the EOQ to decrease. C. Safety stock level. Incorrect. Safety stock influences when an order is placed but does not affect the optimal order quantity in the basic EOQ model. D. Carrying costs. Correct. When carrying costs decrease, holding inventory becomes less expensive. As a result, the company can economically order larger quantities, causing the EOQ to increase. Correct answer. D. Carrying costs. Exam tip. Remember the basic EOQ relationships. EOQ increases when annual demand or ordering costs increase. EOQ increases when carrying costs decrease. Safety stock affects the reorder point, not the EOQ itself. A useful memory aid is cheap to hold, order more; expensive to hold, order less. Lower carrying costs encourage larger inventory purchases because the cost of storing additional units is reduced, resulting in a higher economic order quantity. This question tests understanding of working capital financing policies and the relationship between risk and financing maturity. Working capital consists of current assets, which can be divided into permanent current assets, the minimum level of inventory, receivables, and cash that a company always needs to operate; fluctuating, temporary, current assets, additional current assets needed to meet seasonal or cyclical increases in demand. The key principle is maturity matching. Long-term assets and permanent current assets should generally be financed with long-term funds, while temporary current assets may be financed with short-term funds. Using short-term financing for permanent assets is considered the most aggressive policy because the company must continually refinance its obligations. If interest rates rise or credit becomes unavailable, the company faces significant refinancing and liquidity risk. Fluctuating current assets with short-term debt. Incorrect. This is a common matching strategy. Since temporary assets disappear over time, short-term financing is appropriate and relatively low risk. B. Permanent current assets with long-term debt. Incorrect. This is a conservative financing policy that reduces refinancing risk by using stable long-term financing. C. Fluctuating current assets with long-term debt. Incorrect. Although more expensive than short-term financing, this conservative approach reduces liquidity risk rather than increasing it. D. Permanent current assets with short-term debt. Correct. This is the riskiest policy because permanent assets require continuous refinancing with short-term borrowings. The company is exposed to interest rate fluctuations and the possibility that financing may not be available when needed. Correct answer. D. Permanent current assets with short-term debt. Exam tip. remember the three working capital financing approaches. Conservative, long-term financing for both permanent and temporary current assets, lowest risk. Matching, hedging long-term financing for permanent assets and short-term financing for temporary assets, moderate risk. Aggressive, short-term financing for permanent current assets, highest risk. A useful rule is, the greater the reliance on short-term financing for long-term needs, the greater the liquidity and refinancing risk.